we're always in the hunt for new ideas around here, especially when the broader market is really not so hot. So tonight I want to introduce you to an intriguing story in the healthcare space. I'm talking about Optinose, OPTN. It's a drug delivery company that helps people who suffer from ear, nose, and throat problems. It also has its own formulations. The idea here is that Optinose has a unique technology, what they call an exhalation delivery system. Basically, you put it in your mouth and your nostrils, and when you breathe out, the pressure shoots the drugs you need up your nose while preventing them from dripping back down into your mouth. The idea here is that you can get these drugs where they really do need to go, far into your sinuses, very hard to do, which gives them an edge over other medications. The company's already got 2 products on the market, a migraine therapy and a treatment for nasal polyps, and it could ultimately help with all kinds of allergies, too. Now, Optinose came public last fall, but it took a while for the stock to really get traction. So far this year, though, it's up 30%, mostly thanks to the launch of Xhance, its nasal polyp treatment back in April. So could the thing have more upside? Let's check with Peter Miller, the CEO of Optinose, to learn more about this fresh-face IPO and its prospects. Mr. Miller, welcome to Mad Money. Good to see you, sir. Have a seat.
Great to see you, too.
All right. You do have a revolutionary new way to get drugs to where they need to go. And I think you've got to talk about this CRS market, how big it is, and how big it is for this nasal polyps indication, because this is not a device that's treating a small market.
Absolutely, Jim. And it's a disease that's not terribly well understood because this is not allergic rhinitis. This is chronic rhinosinusitis. So it affects 30 million people in the United States. About 10 million of those 30 million people develop these nasal polyps. That's the first indication that we got from the FDA, so about 10 million people. About 10 million of the 30 million being actively treated by physicians. About 6 million people have had surgery, Jim. Pretty much 7 million, actually. The only thing that really works for the treatment of this disease, chronic rhinosinusitis, is surgery. Problem with surgery is it doesn't really cure the problem.
Okay.
Many people, symptoms return. The first indication that we're going after nasal polyps, we're launching in the ENT allergy specialty segment, treating about 3.5 million of the patients.
All right, so you have to do some missionary work, though, I imagine, with doctors who may not be familiar with Optinose.
We do. I mean, Jim and I, we're very proud, by the way. We did get the approval of the product last September. We actually chose to delay the launch of the product because we said we have to build 2 things in the market. First, you got to build awareness of the product.
Right.
The second is you got to get coverage.
Right, the payers.
From the payers. Vital.
And what is the percentage now that you have of payers?
Well, payers were up to 65%, have what we call hassle-free coverage. We actually have 74% of patients have it covered on their formulary. 65%, we like to say hassle-free. In terms of awareness, though, Jim, what you first asked about, last September we had 29% awareness. We now have over 85% awareness.
How'd you get so fast?
We frankly do things in sort of novel ways, Jim. Despite the fact we chose to not launch for a period of time, we had an innovative idea to put clinical nurse educators out in the field prior to the launch of the product. They were able to educate doctors on the disease state here, how our product, as you said, uses the magic of breath to get the drug high and deep in the nasal cavity. And that, I think, a brilliant idea by our chief commercial officer.
Explain the delivery system, because, I mean, why can't I just use, like, nasal spray?
Yeah, so probably the simplest way to describe it, Jim, is that the nose, most people don't really know what's behind the front of your face. The nose is designed to let stuff go this way and to prevent it from going this way. It's a series of bony structures, narrow labyrinthine-like passages. So if you try to put something in your nose via nasal spray, less than half actually gets in the nose, gets deposited on the front of the nose. What does get beyond the nose goes to the floor of the nose, and because you sniff, it goes in the stomach. So we have a device. We call it exhalation delivery system. It has a mouthpiece and a nose piece. The brilliance of this mouthpiece, Jim, is when you blow, we use sort of the magic of the breath to go up into the nose. It really doesn't shoot it. It sort of navigates it around all these structures. The result is we get a lot of drug high and deep in the nasal cavity.
All right, so I look at this and I say to myself, well, I'll duplicate that. I'll just make something just like it. What happens?
Well, we have patents, Jim, obviously. So a brilliant ear, nose, and throat friend of mine, now lives in Norway, Per Dupasland, invented the device. We have patents that run out through 2024. And I don't know how familiar you are with the drug Advair.
Sure.
But when you have a topically acting drug, so unlike a systemically acting in the blood, it's very difficult for a generic to be AB rated. They can't just do simple PK trials to show your equivalent. They have to run big clinical trials. So we believe, Jim, we have very long exclusivity for the product.
And one other thing, what happens if there's 30 million sufferers? I mean, there's obviously a bigger market than the current one we're talking about. Can you get approval
Well, so thank you for bringing that up. The program we're doing is, so we have 30 million people suffer, about 10 million people have these nasal polyps. The 20 million who don't have nasal polyps, we are pursuing a program.
They need this, right?
Absolutely, and that's a program that we plan to have in the clinic by the end of the year, hopefully to bring that indication to market, which, by the way, will enable us to access an additional 50,000 doctors, an additional 6.5 million patients.
Wow. Okay, so I'm really glad to hear this. This is very valuable, and I think that if you want to see how it works, you can go. I've seen the video.
Xhance.com.
And Xhance.com, and you see how easy it is to use. That's Peter Miller, CEO of Optinose, and the stock is getting hot. Now you heard why. Very big markets ahead. Mad Money's back after the break. Booyah! Jim Cramer here from Mad Money. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube. Click here to subscribe and get the jump on my exclusives with CEOs, plus market news, investing advice, and a whole lot more.